So, I just saw the new Black Panther movie over the weekend, Wakanda Forever, and the big question here is, was it good? But also, what did I think about it? Because why else would you have clicked on this video? And I'm gonna provide nothing but the utmost honesty for all of you wonderful people today. And the most honest thing I can say about this movie right now is I don't think that it'll surprise any single one of you. What I mean by that is those of you who expect to go into this movie enjoying it will definitely like this movie, and those of you who don't expect to see a different formula used in the MCU will feel the same exact way walking out of it. But I think most of the people who saw this movie are pretty satisfied with what the final product ended up being. What about me though? For starters, I'd like to say that this movie was not easy to make. I'm going off memory here, but Marvel had basically finished the entire script for this movie, and then Chadwick Boseman had passed, and from that point on they had to just start over from scratch. And after rewriting the entire movie, I will say that they did a very good job making this respectful and making it make sense within the MCU. Anyone who might be planning to see this movie already knows that one of the main themes coming up will be grief. Capturing realistic grief is a very tricky thing to do inside of a movie, but the cast does a really great job displaying grief in what I describe to be its purest form. Just about every single emotionally charged monologue is done to perfection here. Everyone is going through their own character development here, and you feel like you're right beside them the entire movie. The acting overall was pretty top-notch from start to finish. The one thing I wasn't expecting from this movie was good CGI. Just about all the visual effects and scenery looks pretty beautiful here, and the action was pretty good too. It was definitely an upgrade for both visuals and action from the typical stuff we usually get within the MCU. I also think it's safe to say that I think Namor fans will be very pleased with this live adaptation of the character. They did a very good job of explaining his role within the story, but I wouldn't say that he was a better antagonist or just as good of an antagonist as Killmonger was in the first movie. To me, Killmonger is one of the best antagonist villains we've ever seen in any MCU project ever, and I just think it was really hard for him to compete at that level, and I don't think that Namor is at that level necessarily here. And Namor and his civilization are shown to be just as powerful as the Wakandans, but I still felt that the Wakandans were powerful because they're just simply more technologically advanced, and it seemed that Namor and his people were at like peak evolution, so that was something that kind of like kept me out of the action a little bit. I still think that Ryan Coogler did very well here. He directed the first Black Panther movie, and Marvel usually changes up their directors if they don't feel like they know the source material from like front to back. But I'd say that Coogler has a pretty good grasp of all the characters here, and he knows how to write them within a like compelling story, which is why I think the character work was really great and well done here. But I still think there was one really major issue here. I think the one thing holding this movie back the most is that this movie is over 2.5 hours. A lot of what fills up that runtime honestly just makes the movie feel really long, longer than it actually is. The movie's pacing is quite slow, and for some scenes that does need to be the case, but for a bunch of these scenes it really doesn't. It's mostly the middle chunk of the movie that slows everything down, and I'd say that most of this movie is built off dialogue, but it's still written well, so most of the time it's engaging. I think that the pacing would have been better if the scenes with less emotional weight to them were just a bit snappier. And I'm not going to spoil anything here, but there is one subplot I felt didn't blend well with the rest of the story, and it felt more like a loose end. You'll know it when you see it, and it sticks out pretty bad, I'd say. They could have left this subplot out, but I feel like Marvel just wanted to get this movie over the 2-hour 30-minute mark, so that's why it's there. And unfortunately, this movie still keeps close to the traditional Marvel formula. Every single Marvel movie has the same exact stuff and the same exact tropes, and I just feel like Wakanda Forever could have been completely different. It could have had a different flow, it could have had a different ending, it could have just been different. I think some of us deep down were expecting to see something different, and it doesn't matter whose story it is in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, the invisible hand of Disney will continue to mess around with stuff, and it's almost like everything they touch gets worse, and they still played it very safe here. They honestly could have been experimental with this movie, but they just passed up that opportunity. And that didn't necessarily hold back the movie from being good, but it definitely held it back from being amazing. Overall, I still think that Wakanda Forever is one of the more enjoyable Marvel movies, but it's still a Marvel movie at heart. This isn't a negative review. I still very much like the movie. And like I said in the beginning, if you like the world of Wakanda and you like these characters, then you will like this movie. Besides the pacing issues, I think that I still had a very good viewing experience. And I think that the movie is still very respectful and in good taste of Chadwick Boseman's passing. It's still very emotional, it's still very engaging, and most of all, it's still a very well told story, but it's still a story that feels like it didn't get to be told the way it wanted to be told. So today, we'll be giving Black Panther's Wakanda Forever a firm, solid, and fair 7 out of 10. Also, all of my Marvel scores have gone down by 1 point.